All right, everyone. So today I am joined by Peter Michael. Now, I wanted to bring him on as he's a brand new agent, first year in real estate the last year, and he actually managed to do 100K in his first 100 days. Now, I've known Peter for years, and I wanted to bring him on here to share some of his insights into how he's actually been able to achieve what most people see as impossible. And, you know, there's a lot of agents out there, even as they've got bigger, haven't done 100K in 100 days, especially as not as a brand new agent. So today we're going to be really diving into how he did it, the sources in which he got his leads and who he converted, how he converted them, and all those juicy details. So for you new agents and seasoned agents who want to learn how you can kind of leverage more modern strategies and some of the stuff that he's been doing, this is going to be for you. So Peter, thanks for jumping on with me, bud.
Dude, thanks for having me. It's always fun.
See, we're going to dive into the first 100 days or your first year in real estate. Now, just for everyone listening, give a bit of context. So, you know, team, solo agent, you know, tell everyone about your setup, how you function, how you work, kind of a bit of a day-to-day and what it looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a single agent from, you know, like the standard business models. We are with what I feel is one of the greatest brokerages that allows us to create leverage and have a self-organized team. But essentially, it's, you know, everyone has their own business. And to give everybody a little bit of context, I came from the lead gen game before I was an agent, which definitely gave me a little bit of an advantage. However, everything that I thought was true at that time ended up being challenged from every single direction, every single angle. I mean, we were just talking about this, right? The sheer fact of how we approach internet leads versus cold calling or versus any other source, it's a slight mindset shift in order for you to just do better, do more. And I think the other big piece is I just didn't know any better. I didn't know what was possible. I didn't know what I could do or what I should be doing. So I just got into massive action, threw some stuff on the wall. Some of it stuck, some of it didn't. The things that did are what's responsible for me, you know, doing those numbers. And I humbly say I couldn't do it without the help of, you know, some great mentors along the way. And the people that were willing to help me write the freaking contracts, open up the lockbox and everything, because, you know, I just came completely ignorant into the business from that side.
I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, one of the things that's amazing about your story, which I think you epitomize the American dream. I've told you this for years. And it's the fact that, like, not only an immigrant, you know, making your own way in life, but also when you got started in real estate, you moved from Philly to Boca.
Yeah.
So it was the fact that you knew nobody as well, which is like a big hang up for a lot of people. It's like, oh, I've moved to a new area. A lot of people who've just got into real estate, right, know the area they're living, like it's their hometown. So they've got a ton of connections. When you got into real estate, you had no connections with regards like your immediate surroundings. It was like, this is a brand new area and you're a new dad. So new area.
But it was, yeah, it was definitely super challenging from that perspective, because like I said, I didn't know any better. So whether I was here or if I was in an area that I've known, I think the only challenge was actually the client acquisition part, right? Like I didn't move in and knew everybody. The only other adult that we knew was the agent that helped us actually look at the place and write the lease. But my wife is the one who actually found the place, right? So it definitely felt like starting over. And there was definitely a lot of challenges. Having kids was definitely one of those challenges. But I don't, like I said, Andrew, I didn't know any better. So it's like what somebody perceived as hardship, I didn't, because I didn't have anything to compare it to, right? Yeah. So to me, it was just like another day at the office. Here's what I need to do. I just need to get through it and to do it as quickly, as efficiently as possible. And I knew that I didn't need to learn like how to write a contract until I was writing a contract, right? Yeah. So that's where I focused my time. And I'm not perfect.
Yeah, for sure. Just
I mean, we go massive action this all the time. I'm still saying, what am I missing? Why am I not doing this? Like, why, you know, why isn't it like raining cash here.
Because real estate is very simple, but it's very hard. It's not an easy game, but it is a simple game, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I want to dive into the lead gen side, because and the sales side, like all of this encompasses, but let's talk about lead gen specifically. So when it came to your lead gen, choices, you've done a bunch at this point, but when you were first starting out, let's kind of give a bit of a rundown on, what you started doing, where the deals came from, and kind of walk us through, your first, 10 or 15 deals, whatever it was to make you 100K.
Yeah. So, like I said, I moved into a brand new area, had no friends, no family, no sphere, no contacts, no connections. I didn't know the business. I didn't know what farming was. My second fear was cold calling and anything with cold outreach, right? First one was having kids. I kind of got over that one since I have two. I didn't know how to do an open house. I didn't know what mailers were. Like when I tell you I was brand new, like none of this stuff was covered in my exam. They were like, here you go, here's all the technicals, go pass your test. And that was pretty much it. So for me, it was Facebook and Instagram leads. And before anybody goes, Facebook and Instagram, those things don't work. Well, I beg to differ because I didn't spend money on Zillow. I didn't spend money on Realtor.com, partially because I didn't have it. But the second part of that is I was helping agents for 6 or 7 years, or maybe even 8 years at the time, that were coming from those services knowing they didn't work, right? So where it really kind of hit for me was when ads started working. There's a difference when we were doing this for other agents or across the country, but then when we started doing it for ourselves. So my first deal was actually, believe it or not, rent some ads. Someone that was somehow in a way connected to me through friends back in Philly saw my ad, reached out and say, hey, you don't really know me, but I think I'm going to be listing a house. I'm like, okay, cool. Where? Jupiter. Great. Where is that? I had to literally go from my town, type it into Google Maps to see how far it was. It was like 40 minutes, 45 minutes from my house, right? I said, well, okay, cool. I'll come over. I'll fuck my way through, the listing presentation that I have no idea how to do. I don't even know how to run comps yet. I'll figure it out. I'm a numbers guy, right? So you've known me for a long time. Is systems, processes, numbers are my thing. So jumped on the MLS, right? Multiple listing service, and started figuring out how to do comps. Now, the thing is, being in the industry for so long, I had a somewhat of an idea that I've been, obviously refining for the last year, that I've been doing this on a daily, just getting better and better. But then the second thing was like, okay, well, I'll get the listing. Thankfully, I got the listing. So what's the next thing that everybody tells you to do? Do an open house at the listing. So I said, okay, cool. I have the listing. I'll do an open house. Knew nothing about open house. I probably should have gone to YouTube University and like look it up, like how to do an open house, but I didn't. I didn't have the time because I was freaking out about what I need to do for the listing. So from the time that I got it to importing to not doing the paperwork, because the second thing I got when I got into business was get myself a transaction coordinator, because I knew I didn't want to learn the paperwork and I shouldn't be learning. Like the best use of my time was not doing the paperwork, right? It was getting in front of more people, more clients, more eyeballs, or just running more ads. So long story short, ran some ads for that open house. I think we had over 120 people come through, or 140 people come through in a matter of 2 days. I didn't show the property before the open house. Literally every single agent that hit me up was like, come to the open house. I'm doing the open house for like 4 or 5 hours over the weekend, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not picking offers before, but I encourage you to submit one. If you can't make it, your clients don't really want the house that I'm selling, right? That was my approach, and it wasn't wrong either. Well, lo and behold, 140 people walk through. Got a few people that were quite interested, and one person that I took a picture with ended up buying the house. So the one person that came through was unrepresented, got my number, or I should say I got their number. I sent them a picture of both of us smiling. A few hours after the open house, they texted me saying, we want to buy this house. Can you help us? I said, absolutely. Ended up double dipping on that deal. Actually triple dipping, because then I had to find my sellers another place, which I did down the street. So just that one ad, about $75 worth of ad spend, is responsible for just about $1.4 million in volume. You know,
Nice.
3 transactions, three sides, I should say.
Yeah.
And it just, that's where it started. So the next 10 deals were very similar, where I just kept running ads, put my head down and just grind it. You know, if somebody told me you should call people twice a day, I flat out ignored them and called them 4 times a day until I got somebody on the phone. My mentality was, I either get a thumbs up or a middle finger. Don't care which one it is, just give me some closure so I can, you know, I can either keep following up, or I can just move on.
100%. Like a big part of online lead gen is persistence and consistency, which is why a lot of people have ISAs in place, right? Because most agents won't do the adequate follow-up. Like the leads are good, but they do take a lot more follow-up, which is something I wanted to talk about, is like your follow-up sequencing. Like how often do you call? Like what's kind of a rough overview of like, yeah, I'll call within 5 minutes, you know, or like give everyone a rundown of what your follow-up looks like from the lead.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that we hear as agents is like speed to lead. And I'm here to tell you that speed to lead is not bullshit. Like it is actually something that is necessary and required, because in today's world, we're so instant gratification driven that if you can't call, but you can send out a text message or have somebody else call on your behalf, it is going to be huge. It's going to be the difference between you converting at 1% and 3%, maybe even like 6% or 8%, right? Depending on how you're running your numbers and what you qualify as conversion, which we can dive into as well. But having a system to process at scale, it is non-negotiable. So with my follow-up, we do 17 calls, but we typically have 12 touch points before we get a hold of somebody. And the difference between phone calls and touch points are calls, text, and emails, okay? So typically it's 12 before somebody picks up on the other side. You know, we know that they're an actual human being. They're not just some, you know, random set of information that has opted in, or maybe somebody's fake information, right? So as soon as the lead comes in, now the system is a little bit different, because I do have an ISA. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's inbound sales agent, somebody who helps me call through the leads. So when I am at appointments, I am at showings, they can just take it, but we call them within the first 5 minutes. And then we call them again. And then if we call them again and they don't pick up, that's when we will leave the voicemail. Then we call them later in the day. So if a lead comes in the morning, they'll get a call in the morning, afternoon, evening. If the lead comes in the afternoon, they'll get 2 phone calls, and then they'll get a third one down in the evening. If they come in the evening, then obviously we want to be mindful of that. We kind of stack it to the next days. Call schedule, super simple. It's either 4 or 3 on day 1. The 4s are like the back-to-backs, you know, call 1, call 2. They're considered 2 separate calls, but essentially they're in the same time frame. And then we do 3, 2, 2, 2. The reason we do that is because the first 3 days are honeymoon period, which, you know, listen, if we can't get a hold of them within the first 3 or 4 days, first of all, they're not that serious. Second of all, we probably missed that opportunity, or, you know, maybe there's some other underlying reason. So we just follow up with them either short-term, long-term, or we reactivate them periodically and we let our automations do its thing.
Got it. Yeah.
You know, then obviously, you know this, we have automations like emails, text, and the texts are always something that ends with a question, because we want to yield a response. So for example, hey, so-and-so, just so you opted in for XYZ, just wanted to reach out. By the way, how many bedrooms are you looking for? How many bathrooms are you looking for?
Yeah.
right? Or if they're later down in the sequence because they haven't responded, it's like, hey, the mortgage rates are fluctuating, they're going up and down. In order for you to get, into a house, have you talked to a lender yet?
Yeah.
Right. Just stuff like that. We do get a lot of responses to those types of inquiries. And then
I was going to say, when it comes to just kind of switching up a bit, but I was going to say, when it comes to obviously the ads in general,
Mhm.
I've kind of got two questions. One, what do you think of the pros and cons from your side? Like, your boots on the ground, you're calling the leads. Like, what do you think of the pros and cons of running ads?
Well, first of all, pros are, it's something that you can quantify. It's something that's trackable. It's an objective way to make decisions, right? Because if you can work out your numbers, you know what your cost per lead is, you know what your cost per booked appointment is, then you know what your cost per acquisition is.
Yeah.
Then it's just a matter of reverse engineering of whether you're comfortable spending that much in order to acquire clients, right?
Yeah.
So there's predictability there. Unlike referrals, like you may get referrals today or tomorrow, or you may get 5 of them, you may get 1 of them, and then what about next month?
Yeah.
Right. So unless you already have a business and you're already established and you have the rapport, or you've been in the area for a long time where you can call in your chips, which I didn't, then I think that's a big pro and a big win for ads. Well, the cons are obviously you got to spend money, but if you get in the mentality and it's a mathematical equation where let's say it costs you $1,000 to get a client and you make a $10,000 commission, that's a 10x ROI, return on your investment.
Yeah.
That's like going to play the lottery, but know you're going to win 1 out of 10 times or 3 out of 10 times, and you're making 10 times on your money.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I guess the other con is just knowing that you have to follow up.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you're following up, those people will come around. Some people are going to be like ready to go rock and roll today. Some people are going to be like 6 months or 12 months from now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, from my side, I think there's 3 main cons for ads. I think there's a lot of pros, and I definitely obviously have done it for a long time, run ads, but and I always think the pros massively outweigh the cons. But
100%.
for agents, it's like paying money is obviously one. The other is follow up, like you mentioned. I think the third also, and it really depends on the lead source, but is the timeline to conversion. Because, for example, if you were to outbound call like a FISBO and you really nailed that pitch, there's a chance that you can convert them over to a listing for you very quickly.
But they're 2 different settings, right?
Right.
FISBO is somebody who has made a decision to sell their house in the current market today. Like they're already listed. Okay. The people that are coming from ads, they could be either, okay, I need a place because my lease is up in a month, or I need a place because my landlord just pissed me off and it's 10 more months before I'm out of here. So I need to get somewhat educated about what my options even are, because I don't want to rent, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, you're going to get a percentage of all different timelines coming in from ads, right? Like for example, 2 weeks ago, I had somebody come in and be like, I'm ready to buy right now. I have to be out of my place by November, but I can buy something earlier because I want to fix it up before I move in. Oh, and by the way, I'm already pre-approved.
Right.
Right. And then I have somebody who's like, yeah, I'm thinking about buying something next year. Now, most people are going to forget about the person that's buying next year, but the way I approach it is I'm building a pipeline for next year.
Yeah.
Right. Because if somebody is 6-12 months out and I have been reaching out to them for the last 6 or 12 months, the chances of me converting them are high. So I always say, listen, 45 to 90 days of whatever you're doing right now is you're going to see the delayed effect. So I guess that could be the con, right? The timeline of things.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the way you compress the timeline is you do more of the initial. So if you want to close more deals today, Well, you have to spend more money to get more people to have more conversations and start asking for referrals from the people that you're having conversations with. So you can be like, hey, Jimmy, I know you're not ready to buy a house right now, but did you get value out of what I just shared with you? Great. I'm going to listen. It would mean the world to me. Who do you know that's looking to buy or sell a house maybe in today's market? What about your buddy, friends, your cousin, your mother, brother?
Yeah.
Right? So that's something that I'm definitely working on improving, right? Because depending on how your process is structured, one of the things that you actually recommended to me a few weeks ago, or maybe even last week, was just stop overqualifying people and just start getting in front of more people.
Yeah.
And, you know, before, like, I would take them, I would ask them all those questions and, you know, try to make sure that, you know, like, I'm not taking them out if they're looking in 6 to 12 months type of approach to like, hey, you're looking in 6 to 12 months. Cool. Let's meet for coffee. Let's spend like 30 minutes. Let me just take you through my process. And then I will follow up with them for 6 months. So I'm building, I think having this conversation a year from now is going to be vastly different because the stuff that I'm doing now, I know will yield fruits 12 months from now. The problem is that most people aren't doing enough things to stay in that business for that long.
Which leads me on to my final question for you here, which is, although you are a new agent, if a newer agent is listening to this, what advice would you have for them?
Ooh, okay. So it's going to be a multi-part because this is something that I'm going through kind of myself and personally is I would do more with less time, prioritize income producing activities. So like, listen, if you think your website is going to produce income, probably won't. Spend a little bit of time on it so you can just milk it, just milk the fuck out of it. If you think you want to go down the lead route, or if you want to go cold calling, you want to go open houses, master it, right? The second, or actually the second part of that is if you think it's going to take 3 months, it will. If you think it's going to take 6 months, it will.
Yeah.
You're going to severely underestimate how long things will take. But if you think you can, you probably can. If you think you can't, you're probably right. Right. Yeah. So that's the other thing is, and just becoming really, really skilled, just knowing that you don't have to know all the answers. You know, you don't have to be the walking real estate encyclopedia. Like the way I learned my areas is by going out, showing, and while I'm there, might as well read up on the subdivision, might as well look at the houses, might as well look at taxes, right? So just becoming a student, right? And the other thing is just being a student and an executioner of everything that you're studying at the same time by sticking with it for a long enough time. Like if we didn't give ads a long enough runway, I would have been one of those people that says ads don't work, right? Just because I got lucky in the beginning, like I showed you guys with the open house ad, that was, you know, good marketing and a little bit of luck. Okay. Yeah. But then there's been times where, I mean, you know this, you've seen the struggle where I haven't closed the deal for a month, 2, 3, 4 months. Like that is perfectly normal. Now looking back, there's definitely things that I could be doing during those months that now I'm paying for. We just had this conversation. The other thing was just like having the mind shift of no matter, you know, what the outlet, what the lead source is, just getting yourself emotionally detached from the outcome. At the end of the day, you know, if somebody wants to buy a house, they will. If somebody's strutting you along, they will. It's up to you to figure out, you know, what that line, what that boundary is, and just be candid. Run this like a business. Oh, last piece of advice. Don't be a weekend warrior. Don't be a fly by night cowboy over here, you know, selling properties because the market's hot. Newsflash, market's hot, market's cold, market's even, does not matter when you run this thing as a business.
Yeah.
You have the stability and predictability. This is why ads are a big part of my business.
Yeah.
If I need to talk to 10 people, I know exactly how much it's going to cost me to talk to 10 people to pull one deal out, you know?
I think over the last few months, just for my 2 cents, the biggest change I've seen in you is your repetition of like scripts and actually making the calls, following up with the leads. And it's kind of like, because you were saying you had those months of nothing, and it was because you sold a lot, and then it was like, oh, this is great, I've sold loads, and then it was like you didn't do a lot, and then all of a sudden it didn't come in, and then it's because then when you start up again, it takes 90 days to see those next transactions, unless you do have kind of those lucky people that come through that want to close within the next 30 days. And that's the thing about ads, it's like, have that time horizon, like look at 3 months out, you know, and that's kind of how you have to work. But once you've got it going, you've got it going. Now, people want to reach out, learn a little bit more about you, bud. Where could they reach out, get in touch?
Instagram is definitely a good place, at whoispmb. My link tree, if you're going to drop that in, that has all of my socials. That's a good place. My number, 215-758-3202. Don't email me. I do check it religiously, but it's about to change as far as my email handle goes. So whatever my contact card has would be great. And then, am I able to plug other things in here?
Of course.
Okay, so I think the best way, not only your channel, but it's actually our freaking podcast, right? I think the best way to learn a lot of great stuff for free, like from top producers, guys that do way more, that are way more successful than me, because I'm just starting out. Elite Agent Secrets is definitely the way to go. I mean, when we put together the podcast, our mission was, and still is, will remain and will continue to make sure that every single real estate agent is at least a 6-figure producing agent.
Yeah.
That podcast is a huge, huge, huge pillar to my success, right? It just started with an idea. So I definitely want to plug the podcast. Don't call me, don't email me, don't text me. Check out the podcast first, and then call me, text me, email me, whatever you want to do. I'm always willing to lend a helping hand. It's always fun.
I love it. Peter, thank you for coming on and sharing with everyone how you did 100K in your first 100 days. On to your next year, bud. And it's been a good one. Everyone, hope you enjoyed hearing from Peter, and we'll see you in the next one.